Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I am very excited to bring you what is going to be my birthday going out look. I'm about to have a birthday and tonight we are going out for a dinner because my birthday is on Monday. By the time you see this, it'll actually be the day after my birthday because I'm not going to post this until Tuesday. I just have other things going on. But I wanted to do a look and just have some fun and also chat with you just about some of the things that I've learned. I know Jessica Braun just did a video very similar to this, and she did a 20 things I learned in my 20s. I'm gonna be 36, so to do 35 things would just be so long, and honestly I don't necessarily know that I could think of 35 individual things. So I'm gonna bring you 11 because my birthday's on the 11th. And, you know, these are kind of all walks of life. Some might apply, some won't. But I hope you enjoy. And just so you know, we are going to be creating a purple eye look because purple's my favorite color. And it might be a little over the top today. We might be going extreme because why not? So again, let's get started. And I'm so glad you could be here. Alright, so I'm going to pin back this side of my hair. This side's pinned back already because I haven't curled it yet. Just to get everything out of my face. And today I'm kind of sticking with products that I know and love because I have a bunch of new products, but since I haven't really used them, I didn't want to dip into them. So I'm going to start with my Milani primer. This one's a little bit more hydrating for the foundation that I'm going to be using, but I might go in and do a little spot pore filling because this does a pretty good job, but I've lately been getting a lot of like larger pores right kind of here near my smile lines, and they're becoming very obvious, which is funny because my forehead and my chin used to be really bad, and I feel like those have gotten better, but like especially this cheek is like, I don't even know what it's doing. It's got like a mind of its own right now. So it doesn't really seem to matter how much of this I put on. It doesn't really seem to help. So honestly, nothing's really been helping with that, and like I said, I don't really know why or how that started. I'm just gonna kind of pat it in. Let me grab a mirror. Thankfully, the foundation I'm using usually kind of helps cover some of this. Oh, and this primer is the Smashbox Photo Finish Pore Minimizing Primer. And that is like one of my holy grail primers. I think it does the best job of pore filling that I find. I mean, it doesn't, I mean, you're still gonna get some look of texture, but I think it's the best, and I haven't had a problem with it like pilling unless I've put way too much on. I haven't really had a problem with it pilling or not mixing with certain foundations, so that's really good. And then the foundation I'm using is the Too Faced Peach Perfect Comfort Matte Foundation. I'm in the shade Vanilla. I know a lot of people are like, but it's so peachy. I don't know. I like that because, I don't know. Just use this. Why is, I mean, like I just cleaned this. Why has this got fuzz on it? Okay. Alright, so I'm just going to take it on my sponge, and while I'm putting this on is when we're going to kind of get started. So one of the first things that I feel like is kind of hitting home lately, or was kind of like, you know, like a light bulb, I guess, this year, is you can't change things in life that are bringing you down if you keep doing everything exactly the same. Like, you know, it's kind of like that whole old adage of, you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting the same results. And I feel like a lot of times as we get older, we continue to do the same things because, you know, out of fear or comfort, because I do feel like as we get older, we struggle with the idea of change, you know, especially when you get to a point where you are kind of financially stable or even financially struggling, because it's like, you know, gee, risk, you know, there's always a fear of being worse off. And I've just realized though that, like, if you don't do anything, you also can't change it. So it's like a double-edged sword, and so sometimes it's better to just take the risk. Obviously, if it's a financial situation, you also have to, like, make sure you're not gonna be on the street. So I just think that really, like I said, has hit home. I've made some major changes this year, and, you know, just kind of realizing, like, I just kept being upset about where my life was going, or kind of in this standstill, not really doing things that I liked or what I wanted to do, not really taking risks anymore. But then I was like, well, of course it's going to stay exactly the same, because literally I'm not doing anything to change it. So it's been interesting. It's been, you know, we'll see how it works itself out. I think it's still in progress, but, you know, hopefully next year by my birthday, I will, you know, see where some of these risks had led me this year. That's my goal. Trying to see if I need, like, any more anywhere. I think the other thing with that, and kind of my number 2, is sometimes saying no to someone else is saying yes to yourself. And I find that we get to a point where we don't like saying no to other people. Oh, can you do this? Can you take on this extra task? Can you, oh, bake these cookies, come to this dinner? And we just run around all the time, constantly running. You know, oh, I have to be here at this time, we gotta go, you know, we're gonna be late, or then you're rushing, or everything is rushing, because we put so much on our plate. And I've just realized that you know, I'm a firm believer of you can't fill someone else's cup if your cup is empty. When we constantly say no to, or say yes to everyone, we don't really have a way to recharge ourselves. We're strung out, we're, you know, tired, we're cranky. It's just not, it's like a downhill effect, right? Because we don't want to tell people no. But then we kind of, like, lose ourselves in that battle. And that doesn't help either, because then I find that when you take on all this stuff, you're not really doing a great job with any of it. You're kind of just, like, getting by. Like, none of it is, in my opinion, it was never as good as I wanted it to be, because I just kept being, like, rushing everything. So it was never, like, the moments I shared with people were never as good. The projects that I work on were never as good. And, you know, part of saying no and saying yes to yourself is, instead of taking on 10 things where you're doing a mediocre job, you take on 5 things that you can be awesome at. And I've just found that, like, when you're awesome at something, or you do an awesome job, people notice it and appreciate it more. When it's just done, and it's done at a very base level, people are like, oh, okay. But when it's done and you've really gone over the top and you've made an impression, people are like, oh, like, and you just get noticed more. It becomes more important and more impactful. And so, you know, that's going to make a difference for you. You're going to feel better about it. And so, again, in order to, my laugh lines today are like, I might need some concealer on those. Those are crazy. You know, it's just, again, sometimes that saying no is what you need. You know, that's yes. This is yes for me, no for you. And, you know, you just have to remember that, because otherwise we just stretch ourselves far too thin. And that's not good for anybody. Alright, so the next thing, I'm going to wait to conceal under my eyes because I don't know how much fallout this is going to have. And I just realized that I did not want to do my foundation first, but since we're already there, at least this should cover up most of it. I am going to take my Pixie by Petra color corrector though, and just kind of put that right here. I'm not going to put it underneath yet, but I am going to put it here since I'm going to work on my eyes. And then hopefully I don't get a ton of fallout everywhere. So hopefully keep it clean. Okay, so my next, I'm going to do my brows, and this is just the e.l.f. brow pencil, but I might use a little bit. I have a sample of some dip brow, so I may end up using both, but I don't really know. Probably not. I'll probably just use this. Get my mirror open, brush them out. So the next thing that is kind of my advice on is friendship. So some of these are kind of, you know, more categorically placed. And I feel like friendship, especially as adults, is kind of, it's an interesting thing. One, I feel like sometimes as adults expectations get out of hand, and you know, which we'll get into. But so my tip for friendship is not all friendships are meant to last forever. Not are meant to all be that best friend kind. And what I mean is like the person you talk to all the time, see all the time, knows your life story. Not all friendships are meant to be that. And so no matter what kind of friendship it is, whether it's a past, a current, you know, whatever the future may hold, appreciate them for what they are, what you have, and what you either are getting or got out of the situation. Even if it's a situation that ended up in a huge blowout, it, you know, it was bad, even if it ended that point, that's not how it always was. And, you know, sometimes we just linger on everything that other person did wrong, you know, or, but I mean, prior to that, usually you were friends with them for a reason, and they meant something to you, and they impacted your life, you know, even in the blow up, you know, it probably taught you something, hopefully taught them something, and, you know, hopefully you're a better person because of it. You know, and sometimes friendships are seeing each other once a year. Sometimes friendships are talking only every couple of months. And I don't think people value those as much. And those are just as important. You know, they're not 13 and slumber parties and that. They're, you know, friendships as adults especially change very much. And I feel like adults get weird about them. Sorry, my lip itches. And they either think like, oh, it's not impactful enough, I don't need to put in the time. Or, oh, I need to see this person all the time for them to truly be a friend. Like, I haven't heard from them in a while, so they must not care about me anymore. Like, we're adults, we're busy, everybody's busy. And, you know, yes, you do have to make the time, they have to make the time. But, you know, sometimes that means putting aside your pride, like, oh, I always call them. So what? So you always call them. Maybe they've been meaning to call you 100 times and, you know, it slips their mind, or it's never a good time to talk, or whenever they think, maybe they think about you when they're driving to work, or maybe they think about you when they're putting their kid to bed, but none of those are good times to call. And then when it would be a good time to call, they're just thinking like, oh my God, today was like the roughest day and I'm tired. And you know, sometimes our mind doesn't always come back to people at the convenient times. And like I said, I just feel like we put so much pressure on friendships and then they start to crumble. I've also heard people say like, oh, I have enough friends. You never have enough friends. Making connections with other people, you can never have enough of that. That's like good for your soul. And so that's my thing on friendship. And I have found that every single one of my friendships is a different part of me. It impacts a different part of my life. It is a different part of my personality. It's a different part of my sense of humor. It's a different part of my interests. And they all have something completely different to bring to the table. And every single person I've met, even work friends, bring something to that table. And so I appreciate them for what they are and just kind of let go of all the other drama. That's like my new thing. Like, I don't care anymore. Too old for drama. Okay, next I'm going to use my Ulta matte primer. So I am going to use two palettes today because I told you I'm being extra. So I'm going to use the BH Cosmetics Zodiac palette, mostly because I really want these matte purples here. And then I'm also going to use the Bad Habit Ofra palette. I had to think about how to pronounce that, sorry. Mostly because I want to use these purple shimmers in here. Although I am going to use a couple other colors, like I might use this one here. So this is apparently a dupe for the Prism palette. I have thoughts on Anastasia. I do own the Modern Renaissance. And we're not going to get into those thoughts. Those thoughts are for another video. One of these days I will use that palette and we'll talk about my thoughts on Anastasia and why I ended up buying the dupe palette. So this is the dupe palette. I'm going to set my primer and I'm going to set it with Dream State in this palette. Just so I have a good base for blending, although these BH Cosmetic ones blend really well. I just think it's, you know, when you're working with colors like this, I think it's better to blend them with something. So now in here, I'm going to take this like tan shade. These don't have shade names, but I'm just going to use this as a transition before I start with my purples. And my number 4 point of advice is trust your gut. Your body knows what it is doing, even when logic is telling you to do something else. And I've been in situations where, you know, I'm just like, yeah, I'll do it. And something inside of me is like, don't do it. Don't go there. Don't be with this person. And sometimes I've listened and it's worked out for the best. And sometimes I haven't and it's never gone well. And so now I've realized when I get that feeling, when I just know like, no, not doing this, I need to listen to it. Like I need to realize that whatever that decision is, whether it's a job decision, whatever that decision is, I need to listen, because otherwise I'm never happy. Like I said, sometimes logic is just your brain telling you like, oh yeah, all the pros are in the right column, like do it. And other times it's, you know, but sometimes your body just knows, like don't. I'm also going to stop for a second and zoom you guys in. Alright, so that should be a little bit better. And then I'm going to go back in and use that same tan in the other corner. So my next one is kind of about beauty. And it's confidence and kindness is the most beautiful trait you can have. And it doesn't care what color your skin is, what gender you are, what size you are. It just, if you are confident in who you are. Now there's a difference between confident and cocky. If you are confident in who you are as a human being and you're kind to others, you are the most beautiful, like you are truly beautiful. And you know, you should never feel bad about yourself if whether, you know, I mean, and don't get me wrong, we all have insecurities, but just to be mindful that that's true beauty. Like that is the epitome of beautiful. And that's all that really matters. Next, I'm going to take this shade right here, which is underneath Cancer. We're just going to add that into the crease a little bit. So my next advice too is about parenting, so I had to throw one in there. And this is the advice I give everybody who is about to have a child, be a guardian, whatever the case, however you're parenting, regardless of the age of your children. To me, the best thing that I realized to listen to, and that advice is people are going to give you advice. Unsolicited, solicited advice. You're going to get it. You know, everyone has an opinion about raising children, raising teenagers, raising small human beings that are crazy. And here is my advice, okay? This one, I think this one's good. I think this needs to be stitched on a pillow. That advice is fine, but at 3 in the morning when your baby is screaming, and when your child is throwing up all over your house and you, when you get a call from the teacher, when your child gets into their first fight, when you have to rush them to the emergency room, more than likely, none of those people will be there. It's just gonna be you, you know, your whoever you're with maybe, and your child, or, you know, the child you're caring for, regardless of their age, at 22, you know, and none of that advice will matter. It's going to be whatever the best decision is for you and your child. And none of those people will be there. And you will have to make a decision that you probably didn't even get advice on anyway. And you're going to go with it. And for you and your child, that's going to be the best thing you can do. So don't forget that. Because people love to give you advice. Oh, do this, oh, do that. But they're not there. They're not going to be there in tears as something is happening to your child or your child has done something. Like, they're not. You are. So that's important. I think that's important to remember. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do, looks pretty good, is I do want to deepen out the outer corners. So I'm trying to find, this is my brush cup, the brush that I want. Not with much luck. Okay, I think we're going to use my e.l.f. brush. And I'm just like wiping it off because I always do, because I have not cleaned this brush yet. But most of the time I use it for dark colors anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Alright, and then I'm going to go into this dark purple under Torres first. So my next advice, number 7, no two people are the same. We all fit in some boxes. We all don't fit in some boxes. And the thing about that is, we are people. We're not objects. We're not supposed to be categorized and sorted and stored and fit into a mold. every single one of us is the same and every single one of us is different. And I've worked with people for years, with kids, with adults, everything. And you put 100 people in a room and you ask them 100 questions, I guarantee you, out of those 100 people, some of them will be like, who likes pizza? Who likes going to the movies? Who likes to travel? Who likes dogs? Who likes cats? You're gonna find people that all have the same interest. And yet we have a tendency to like talk about all of our differences and sort people into whether or not they're good enough, whether or not they're smart enough, whether, let's be honest, like race, gender, sexual orientation. And it's just we're people, we're human beings. We're not recipes, we're not trinkets, like we're people and we have feelings, and you never know. You don't, just passing someone on the street, you don't know if they're a good person or not. I mean, I have met good people and I have met bad people in all walks of life, and what might be a great person for one person might also be a terrible person for someone else. Okay, so I feel like I went a little bonkers on this eye, so we're gonna blend that out. Oops, sorry, blocking the camera. And I'll clean that up, in case you're wondering. Let me go back into Dream State real quick, just to kind of like fix some of this craziness on the corner that I've like smeared. I'm actually going to take my beauty blender and I'm not too concerned with like the underneath. I'm more concerned with here. I kind of blended like crazy and went too far up. What do you guys think so far? I think these shadows blend really nicely, so. Now, do I want to do halo eye or regular eye? Halo or regular? Halo or regular? I think we need to be different and do a halo eye. So I'm going to take that same dark color and I'm going to put it in the inner corner too. Alright, so my next chunk of advice is, and this one kind of hits home from like losing people in my life, and life is never long enough for those we love, for ourselves, for even though you think you have all the time in the world, you only have right now, because the past is memories and the future isn't guaranteed. I have been in so many situations where you just get a call or find out that they're gone. Like, that's it. It's amazing how quickly that can change in a blink of an eye. And, I think, like I said, I think sometimes we take for granted just the people and the time that we have, even for ourselves. We kind of say like, oh, yeah, I'll take that trip. You keep putting off the dinner and the everything else. And I'm gonna go back into Dream State. Or I keep saying that Dream State. It's not the palette, it's the color. And just blend this down a little bit. Since it's getting a little crazy. Sorry, that palette's behind me. So now I've got a little bit, and I'll put like something on that to pack that in a little bit better. Okay. Actually, I'm going to move over my Aurora palette too. So also kind of going along with the one I just told you, my next one is always hope for the best but plan for the worst. Like, so simple. And what I mean by that is, like, we can all hope that everything is going to be great and it's going to be fantastic all the time, but you know, save money. Like, if you can, even if you save the change in a jar and cash it into the bank like once a year, like, save your change. If you get an extra $1, save it. If you get an extra $500, take $250 of it and save it and spend the rest. Like, save money. Buy life insurance. Buy life insurance. You may be young and think that you don't need it. You need it. Buy it. You know, you never know. And it's so scary to think about that you don't realize how important those things are until you need them. So always have a backup plan. Have a fire safe box for your personal belongings and your photographs. Just think about those things. Just think about them, because it is scary. Make sure your batteries and your smoke alarm work. Like, you know, make sure you have jumper cables in your car. Like, these are all things that you may never need this, and you would rather have it and not need it than not have it and need it. That's because it's rough. It's rough without those things. And I've been in plenty of situations, and I've seen a lot of people in those situations, and not good. Not good at all. Okay. So my next one, actually before we get started, I'm going to put on some glitter glue. I'm trying to decide if I need to, like, I think I'm going to add a little bit of black just to deepen up the purple a bit too, because I feel like it just needs a little more depth in the outer corners. So I'm going to use this shade in the BH Cosmetics. It's like almost black but kind of gray, and it's under Aries. And we're just gonna, just a touch. And actually, I feel like this one has like a purple tinge to it too. Whoops. Alright, and we're going to do that in the inner corner as well. And I just feel like this is going to make the purple pop a lot more, which I feel like it already did. Okay. And because I'm crazy, we're gonna blend again. Okay, so now we're gonna use a glitter glue. And you can use a concealer. Like, I know some people use a concealer, and then you almost don't even really need the glitter glue. I just, a lot of times will put the glitter glue on top and then just put the shadow on top of it. Oops. And we're just gonna set that right in the center. And do the other side. And then I have a Kleenex over here, so I'm gonna wipe off at least one of my fingers. And I'm gonna trade palettes, and I'm gonna go into Ethereal in the Aurora palette. So this is like that light purple. This shade is stunning. It's got a little bit of a cross of a blue, I really, really like it. A lot of times I will do like a lighter color in my inner corner, but I just kind of feel like sometimes you gotta mix it up. Okay, and then we're gonna take Destiny in this palette and we're gonna just dip into that just to kind of blend out the edges into that darker shade. And this is where I'm gonna get the majority of my fallout. And then I'm just going to dip back into Ethereal again and just really hit up that center. Like the very center. And then I'm going to blend out the edges. Now I will say, I do feel like in here, this dark purple is a little hard to blend out. However, if you're into doing cut creases, you can get a pretty precise line. Now, because I have hooded eyes, it doesn't really matter if it blends out completely for me because you won't really notice it. But if you don't have hooded eyes, you will notice it. Look at all this. It is a bit of a fallout, so be warned. Alright, so that's what we're working with. See, you can see that line. It drives me nuts. Okay. Let me go into just a tad of the Zodiac just to see if I can get that to move. Not really, but like I said, you won't really see it. Okay. So, now that I've made a giant mess, like a giant mess, let me see if I can get some of this off. Hey everyone, so I lost a chunk of the video that had my number 10 life lesson, and because I'm just putting on concealer here and haven't moved on to 11, I decided to do a voiceover and just give you my number 10 advice right here as you watch me just put on concealer and blend it out. So my number 10 chunk of advice has to deal with relationships, and I'm a firm believer that you can't go into a relationship expecting to change somebody a certain way. But I also think you can't expect them not to change. You're not going to be who you were at, 19, 20, 25, or even 30 when you're 40, 50, or 60 years old. And neither are they. And so part of being in a relationship, and probably the hardest part about being in a relationship, is that you have to come to terms with the fact that you are going to be continually relearning not only about yourself, but also the person that you're living with and what that means. So, date nights are important because you got to constantly rekindle that connection and you get to know each other again, and people change what they want out of life, and it's just continually building that and remembering that, you're in it for a long haul. And you just have to keep learning more and more about each other and figuring out how to continually stay closer, even when they sometimes surprise you or you surprise them. So that is my number 10 relationship advice. I am probably going to move you over to the actual video now. Thanks. So my 11th thing is, your house is never truly clean. It's impossible. You could do all the dishes in your house, every last one of them. And at some point, you're probably going to need to eat again. At some point, you will probably need to have a drink. I don't mean like a drink, I mean like water, anything. Will need to have fluid. So unless you are using disposable, which I don't recommend, I mean, at some point you're probably gonna want to use real dishes. And at some point you're going to have dishes again. Like, especially if you have kids. I think they eat like every hour. And laundry. You can do all your laundry. Every last bit of it. But you're probably wearing clothes when you do it. Which means at the end of the day, guess who has laundry again? Oops, sorry, I'm blocking the camera. And you can dust. But dust is always in the air. So, about 20 minutes after you dust, guess what's going to start falling? On all those things you dusted. That's right, more dust. So, take a moment. If it's a moment where you need some time by yourself, or time with your significant other, or time with your kids, or you need to make that phone call to your friends, do it. Just take it. Take the moment. Because, again, time isn't guaranteed. And we miss those opportunities, and sometimes we need those opportunities. So play with your kids, snuggle with your significant other, call your friend, call your family, do a sheet mask, paint your nails. Take the time, because you need it, because everybody needs it. And trust me, that mess will still be there. It never leaves. Never. It's never truly gone. I'm gonna tightline with like the e.l.f. one in the, just a little dab in the dark purple. I know you're like, girl, you just got rid of all that. Those of you who are watching, I would love to know how old all of you guys are. And, you know, just what's something you've learned? What is something that you just feel like, this is what I've learned from life, like this is what I've gotten out of it? So I feel like that journey is so different for everybody. And you learn stuff as you need to, and we get out of life like, oh my god, my nose. Always like right here in this area, my nose always itches, and I never want to scratch it off. Alright. So now before I do like all the eyeliner, yada yada yada, we're gonna do the rest of our face. I'm gonna do the rest of my face. So I'm gonna use my Tarte blush in taupe for my contour. Just gonna put a little bit, I really need a mirror. Right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my like fluffier Wet n Wild brush, and I'm going to go into my Tarte bronzer just to kind of warm everything up, just because, I don't know, I feel like I need to look like I've been out in the sun. Now I'm going to go in and use my Butter Bronzer blush in Plum Rose. I really like this blush. Like, it's just a nice cool tone blush. It's very pretty. And my go-to's brush, like you even have to ask. Just gonna put that up here. A little bit of an apple on my cheek. next product I'm gonna grab is my highlight, and I just got the Ofra highlighter. I've never used one of these before, in Rodeo Drive, so I'm hoping this is not too dark and too gold, but usually even when highlighters are a little bit dark, I can kind of like gently use them, and so we're gonna start with like a little and shake it off because I'm a little nervous. Rub into, let's what do we think? It definitely has like a beam to it, which I'm not hating. Am I beaming? Am I glowing goddess of gorgeousness? You know, need a bigger mirror. Like, that's my only thing with where I do my makeup when I film these videos, is I don't really have a mirror. I'll give you some spark of loveliness. Alright, and then what I'm gonna do is I am gonna put some of this in my inner corner. I debated about doing glitter, but I just feel like at this point it's gonna be way too much. Alrighty. And what's next? Oh yeah, eyeliner. And I might do lashes. So I'm going to be right back because I'm going to do that off camera, and then I think we're almost done. Alright, so I finished my I put lashes, liner, and mascara on just to get that done and out of the way. I will be setting my face when my mascara is fully dry with the Morphe Continuous Setting Spray, but I am going to go ahead and do my lip. So I'm just going to take the NYX pencil in Nude, and then I'm going to top it with a gloss because why not? So, okay, and then I think I'm going to top it with Moonchild from Colourpop. Just like that. And like I said, I was just going to go in with a nude lip since I went with like a darker eye today, and then I went and finished curling my hair and all that. So I am so glad you could join me here for my birthday purple look. I hope you enjoy it. By the way, I will link everything that I used down in the description box so you don't miss anything. And as always, it's such a pleasure. Have a great day. Bye.